No, this is the only stage it's happening, and the story that I want to tell you begins with an invitation. It was an invitation on Instagram from a friend. They invited me to a party, actually. They're like, "Hey Phil, check out this party," and I checked it out, and it was a queer party. It was a queer party, which is to say, it was a party for queer people. And I checked it out, and I read a bit about it. It was like this group of people, they got together and they decided, like, hey, let's make this thing that we do a bigger thing. And they decided to do this party. So it was actually the first edition, just a couple of people getting together. And it made me think back. It made me think back to this time when, like, I was in university and I used to go to this bar called the Rendezvous, which it later shortened its name to Le Vue to be more fashionable. And it was the kind of place that, like, if you ever showed interest in anybody, it would feel kind of like incestuous. You know what I mean? Have you ever felt incestuous in your life? He's not answering that question, but that story's going to come up. No, it was the kind of place that, like, you know, if you were to take a red string between person to person and try to draw the connections, it would just, like, make a circle. Yeah, it was like a small little space. You know, like, it was such a small space that this one time they wanted to do, like, a Halloween party, but they couldn't afford anything, so they took white napkins and they hung it from the ceiling. These were supposed to be ghosts. But, like, for a tall guy like me, it was a convenient way to, like, wipe my forehead when I'm dancing. So all these memories, they came rushing back, and I was like, oh man, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll go to this queer party, this new party in Amsterdam. And I went there, and the first thing that I noticed, and I'll try to be as politically correct as I'm telling the story. Thank you for acknowledging the challenge. I noticed there was a lack of this at the queer party. What I mean to say is that everything that was happening here wasn't really out there. But this was fine. I'll tell you. As it turns out that when the white cisgendered man is away, everyone else can come out to play. You see what I mean? I'm a white cisgendered man, if you haven't been able to tell. So as I was experiencing this party, it was a very, very fun party. To be honest, all jokes aside, it was a very multi-culti space. It was interesting. These different ethnicities, these different backgrounds, cultures, races, gender presentations, sexualities. It was all there, and it was really, really fun. I was really enjoying the vibe. But at the beginning, I made sure I was aware of myself in this space. You know, when I stuck to my friends like you do when you're at a new bar for the first time, and I just did like a little bit of like a side shuffle kind of thing. Then, you know, you get to a little bit of drinking, you get to feel the music a little bit more, so it's getting into your hips. People start noticing me, because I'm a tall guy, making connections with people like, hey, what's up? Yeah. This was fun, but then they played a song, and the song that they played was Gasolina by Daddy Yankee. Do we know this song?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the one that goes like, na-na-na gasolina, da-da gasolina, oopa gasolina, na-na gasolina. So I was feeling it, guys. I was there, I was feeling it. My body started moving. I was feeling those connections with people. There was sweat and body heat and sexy bodies, and I decided that this would be a good time to take off my shirt. So, for those of you who can't see, maybe you're in the back row, to describe what's under this little piece of cloth, it's like if Donkey Kong owned a Peloton. Like, I want you to take Chewbacca and give him Dutch ancestry. That's me right there in the middle. It's a hot and hairy, sweaty mess. And the only thing protecting you from it is this thin piece of fabric. Not so much for the people on the dance floor. And to be honest, well, some people got upset. And I didn't know this. I didn't know this at the time because I was being a maniac. Gasolina on the dance floor. But actually outside, a group of people had kind of gotten together. And they decided that they were going to go into the bar and get me to put my shirt back on and get me to leave. Now, luckily, my friend who invited me, they heard this conversation. They heard like tall, hairy, sweaty guy, and they're like, "Oh God, that's Phil." and they intervened, and luckily the conflict it didn't get to go anywhere. But to me, like that's the closest I've ever felt to being Julius Caesar. Like at one moment having a great time, and I could have turned around, and there'd be an entire mob of people being like, "Your reign of power is over, honey." So I didn't find out about this when it happened until the day after the party. My friend had brought it up, and they told me the story. And quite honestly, the way I felt about this is I was actually pretty embarrassed. When I heard about this, I was like, oh shit! Like I had basically gone to a birthday party and blown out someone else's candles. I had overstepped a boundary, and I felt bad. But then, and even God's vengeance apparently was. No, I felt bad. And my friend, they were there to talk to me and defend me again. Like, well, Phil, you know, it's a queer space. It's a queer space for queer people. You should have the right to take off your shirt as anybody else. And one of the things about being in the queer community is learning to challenge and accept our differences. And that's a valid point, but there is this other part to the argument. And that's kind of how I, as a straight, passing, I mean like allegedly, how I, like a straight passing person, positions myself within the LGBTQ spectrum. Because here's the thing, like I've kind of had the privilege to grow up and never think about how my physical presence might be evocative of a wider societal issue. Like nobody on the street comes up to me and makes a beef just for me existing. That's true. And if I look at myself in the mirror after all things considered, for reasons that are beyond our control, I can see that for some people, maybe I am this walking emotional trigger. So I made a decision. When it came time to be invited for the next edition of this party, I said to my friend, no, I'm not gonna go. You know, there's 1,001 different places I could go to and take off my shirt and not be challenged. So why did I have to go to this one? And to be honest, I felt pretty mature with that decision. Like I was like, yeah, I'm out here like helping lives. And this decision lasted about 2 weeks before the next edition, when I had gone to and bear with me here, an erotic poetry and storytelling open mic night at Frankrijk. And I'd gotten on stage to do an erotic story. Which, you know, like, maybe I could share one day on Mezrab if you guys wanted to hear like an erotic story starring me. No? Okay, fine. Anyway, so I did. So I got on stage. I did this erotic story, and somebody recognized me. And when I found out how they recognized me, I went for like the preemptive Canadian apology. Like I gave this person like everything. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I didn't mean to cause a problem. I was just having a good time. And this person looked at me like I was insane. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you were super fun. I thought you were really like bringing the energy in the room. You were like making connections with people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, were you not having a good time? And I was like, well, yeah, I was having a good time. I put my shirt, you know. And so after having a conversation with this person, I decided, like, you know what? I will go again to this queer party. Only this time, I'll be a bit more mindful. I'll practice a bit more consideration in terms of what I do there. I decided that it doesn't matter how much my hips get moving, how sweaty and hot it gets under here. Even if they played Gasolina by Daddy Yankee, I was not going to take off my shirt. So, and to be honest, when I got there, I was having a good time. I recognized one of the DJs. She played like this amazing set. I was having a good time. At one point, I was on stage. I was showing off my things. Kept my shirt on though. But by the time the party kind of picked up, I decided to stick to my resolution, take a conscious step back, and just observe and enjoy. And I'm still having a good time, but more from watching other people and seeing how things are going. And my attention, it fell onto this one individual, and I thought he reminded me a lot of when I was younger and I was experiencing the rendezvous or le vu for the first time. And I could see that at the beginning he's a bit like cautious. He's a bit, curious about what was happening. He wasn't exactly engaging. He was kind of like watching and being like, oh my God, people are twerking. Like, it was very exciting for him. Eventually, as the night continued, the excitement continued, and eventually he himself also got onto the stage, and he himself started dancing. And he was being encouraged and encouraged and encouraged, and then he took off his shirt. Now, the only difference, though, is when he took off his shirt, I could see his scars. But I could also see his smile. It's the kind of smile you get when you feel yourself being accepted by an entire room of people. And this guy, he actually encouraged everyone else to take off their clothes. And it became this thing where like tank tops and bras were like flying over my head, and people were getting sweaty and naked. But for me, I wanted to keep my promise. So even though the party was ramping up into something a lot more chaotic, I decided I had enough fun. It was a good night. I got to cycle back to Balmer, so I did. And I went to bed. Now, I suppose the remaining question is, what about next time? Because I see this party being advertised on Instagram. I see that my friend would invite me again if I asked him to invite me. But should I go? Like, what do you guys think? By show of hands, should I go to this party?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yes.
Right now? My mom watches these videos. It's well, something she hasn't seen before, but the way I look at it, honestly, I'm really honored to be invited into these spaces. I find it's really something special when these people say, hey, Phil, come to this party, come celebrate with us. It's a big honor, and I enjoy these people. Like, I mean, I enjoy the dancing, I enjoy the vibe, I enjoy the drink at a reasonable price, especially in Amsterdam. I enjoy it all. So yes, I could go to this bar, but the one thing is, I don't really need to, do I? Thank you, everyone, and happy Pride.